What's up, everybody? Welcome to Radiovania's DC Extended Universe in Review. This is, episode number 8. We are reviewing Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn and the Fantabulous Emancipation, Birds of Prey. This title, which we'll get into.
Can we just call it Birds of Prey?
We can just call it Birds of Prey. Yeah, Harley Quinn and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Nope, it's the still wrong. Birds of Prey. And yeah.
If you've never listened to this show before, we've done 7 fucking fantastic episodes before this, including 2 episodes where we recorded while we were driving through the desert. So go listen to those. But basically, the long and short of it is we're reviewing the DC Extended Universe. All the movies ranging from Man of Steel all the way to what we will be reviewing soon, which is Wonder Woman 84. If you've never listened... If you've never listened to Radiovania, go to radiovania.com. We're a pop culture nerd podcast. It's basically just John and I talk about cool shit that we love.
And not cool shit sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes we talk about some stuff.
Sometimes we take shit on cool things.
It's true
as well.
It's very true.
Yeah.
We're not bought out by anybody. No sponsors here. We're going to be 100% forthright with our opinions.
I think the only rose-colored glasses thing that we have through and through is probably like Naughty Dog. That's like the one thing that you and I like never actually shit on in any kind of quantity ever.
If I tried really hard, I could probably shit a little bit on Jak and Daxter, even though I love Jak and Daxter and Crash Bandicoot.
Sorry,
Crash Bandicoot
Naughty Dog
sucks.
circa 2015 onward.
Yeah. But please listen to the show. We'd love you guys to listen. It's a lot of fun. This episode's going to be fun. We're both tired as fuck. It's the Christmas season. You know what it is. It's going to be we're like lounge singers tonight. It's going to be, pour yourself some sort of dark whiskey. Not that any whiskey isn't dark, but, build a campfire, settle in, because it's going to be a nice ride. Go to radiovania.com, email the show at radiovaniashow@gmail.com, follow us at Radiovania on Twitter, follow me at Zach Rotello, and DM the ghost of John Parker on Twitter. And
he's a shell of a social media account.
He watched The Social Dilemma and decided that he was going to piece the fuck out.
Yeah. You can email my former employer's email address and see if anything goes through.
Yes.
J.
Try
Parker
that
at 4cvmp.org. Check it out.
Are you about to? So you're shouting out the Conservancy right now? Is that what's happening?
Well, I don't have access to that email anymore.
Oh, right. Okay.
Somebody's going to get the emails, and I think it'd be really funny if it was like a Radiovania
fan mail
that's like, "Hey, why'd you lay him off?"
Please send that. Please ask why they laid him off and send it to that email address. All right. Yeah. It's time. John,
it's time.
The last episode we did was
the finish line.
Yeah, like this is the finish line that we originally set out, because when we started doing the DC review thing, it was like when
84 was coming out.
Yeah, we didn't know when 84 was coming out, and Birds of Prey was like kind of like the the light at the end of the tunnel where we would finish this kind of cohesive collection, and it's here. And it's funny that it times out that a week, literally 5 days from now, Wonder Woman 84 will be hitting the digital screens of everybody.
I got my HBO Max up and running last night to watch this movie, Birds of Prey, and they have a cool little countdown on there that says experience wonder in 5 days, and she's like doing the cross thing in the golden eagle armor.
So here's the thing, is that also on that, it looks like you can watch the first 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wait.
Me too. I decided to wait. Yeah. I was severely tempted, let me tell you. I was like, my hand was hovering over the play
because
button.
I've seen it pop on YouTube a couple of times too from the Warner Brothers account, and it reminds me a little bit of, because I never watched it, but you watched it last year. Star Wars posted this like preview for The Rise of Skywalker with Kylo Ren going to Exegol.
Oh,
and
right.
It wound up being scene of the movie.
Yes.
And you're like, I kind of wish I hadn't seen that before
I remember
the movie. And I didn't. And then I was like, went back and looked that Instagram up after the fact. And I was like, oh shit, they kind of show how it begins.
It literally shows the very beginning of the movie. And I was like, what
the fuck? I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
Well, we're not talking about Star Wars. Eventually, we'll do Star Wars. We'll do Star Pod. We'll also do. All right, I've got a bad pod about this,
Ooh.
and then we're gonna do Podfather, yeah, or the God Pod, which I also really dig. I think that's a funny name.
Yeah, we'll do the Star Wars in review when we're old men waiting to die alone.
Maybe we do Star Wars Pod when Jedi Starfighters comes out, or whatever the movie Patty Jenkins is working on. Then we can do Rogue Squadron, because then we could do every theatrically released Star Wars movie up until that point.
Hit that sequel trilogy, a little gamey.
I don't know, man. We're going back through and dissecting the prequels for 4 or 5 hours each. It's going to be like each episode of the prequel discussion is going to be like a 6-hour podcast.
I think you and I could do a solid 5 hours on Attack of the Clones.
Oh yeah,
just like talking about how dumb the Republic
is. Talking about why this movie, why it exists.
Well, we could spend a good 30 minutes talking about our guy Dexter Jettster.
Obi-Wan.
They're cloners.
Here's a little connection. We got Ewan McGregor in the Star Wars prequels, and we got Ewan McGregor in Birds of Prey. So let's start it out. Let's start it out. You ready? Yeah. Birds of Prey, directed by Kathy Yan. Who do you know any of her credits?
No, I have Wikipedia pulled up though. So graduated from Princeton and New York University.
Yeah, she has directed a couple indie features. One called Dead Pigs in 2018, and one in 2016 called According to My Mother. But it seems like this is her very first theatrical feature film, Birds of Prey. So, indie darling.
Kind of at times has a good like indie film.
Yeah.
Like aesthetic to it. So I can see that.
Yeah.
I was just glad that they got a woman to do it, to be honest with you. Because obviously the Birds of Prey is a all-female superhero team. So.
Yes. It was written also by Christina Hodson, who I don't know any of her credits, but Paul Dini is also...
I feel like Mark wrote a lot of this too.
I think so too. I think a lot of this movie might be improv too.
I think she did a lot of her own stuff. If anything, Christina Hodson probably just wrote all the Renee Montoya scenes, and then the rest is Margot Robbie flying by the seat of her own pants.
Christina Hodson wrote Bumblebee. That's her latest credit. She was the writer for the Bumblebee movie. It looks like she's attached on the Batgirl screenplay as well as the 2022 The Flash screenplay.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Take that for what you want.
Did they just attach every DC director to each movie? Because I feel like Zack Snyder's attached as like a producer to everything still.
So Zack Snyder is usually listed as a producer in all of the DCEU movies. I think I don't think there's anyone that he's not listed as a producer.
So it's like Jeff Johns. Okay, cool. Interesting.
Yeah. This is one of the only ones that Paul Dini's attached to, though, because of the creation of Harley Quinn.
It's just because he created it. I don't see his touch at all in this movie. It's way darker than anything he would do.
Yeah, it's purely ceremonial, I think.
Yeah.
But
shout out for Paul Dini. Go get them checks, son.
Yeah. I'm trying to find...
Controversial take. Paul Dini, best Batman writer? Maybe?
Possibly. Depends on what you're talking about, what you mean by writer. Because there could be a lot of good Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
So here's a little fact for you, right? If you go to the numbers, the production budget of Harley Quinn says that it's about $82 million. One of the most interesting factoids that there is on IMDb, so take this with whatever you want, because sometimes IMDb facts can be totally bullshit. But this one I believe. Margot Robbie pitched the idea of Birds of Prey to DC and Warner Brothers as a female-led superhero action movie, and they agreed with her vision. Quote, "I think there's a perception that a PG female-led action film is kind of considered a chick flick," says Robbie, "which is why we're going to see an R-rated version of the story." In addition to starring in the upcoming movie, Robbie is also on board as a producer with her Lucky Chap production company. So her hands are all over the project. Birds of Prey is Lucky Chap's largest project to date at $75 million. So not only is it a female director, female writer, but Margot Robbie's production company had a hand in this, as well as Warner Brothers and like DC Comics films. And so this movie, like, this feels like one of the least movie by committees in the DCEU. It honestly does seem like a few people have this vision was achieved pretty well, I think.
I would say this and Man of Steel are the most like one creative vision drives the whole movie.
I think Shazam too, you could sneak in there.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So yeah, like I said,
force the Batarang in there and stuff like that. But
yeah. So the budget, $82 million. The domestic box office was $84 million. The international box office is $117 million, making it a worldwide box office total of $201 million. So this movie did not do super well. And
it also came out in February of 2020, this year. Literally a month and a half before the massive COVID outbreak, shelter in place.
Yep.
So that doesn't play into this at all, which is what I wanted to bring up. So like, this is purely that like just people, I didn't even go see this in the theater. So we should just go ahead and get that out of the way. The first time.
Yeah, this is the first time John Parker's watched this film.
Yeah. For some reason I wanted to see it because I love DC Comics and especially Gotham City stuff. But it was not for some reason it wasn't an immediate thing going on. I did have Girl Scouts at that time, the programs I was running. So I was a little steeped in work during that period. But yeah, I kind of feel bad. I would have enjoyed this in a theater. And I wish that would have been my last movie theater experience before the shutdown.
Yeah. So, what was your last movie theater experience? Did we talk about this?
Joker.
Was it Joker? No. Rise of Skywalker.
Nope.
Joker came out after Rise of Skywalker?
Oh, wait, you're right. It was Rise of Skywalker. Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
Yeah, the last movie I saw in a theater was Sonic the Hedgehog. So, but yeah, so hour and 49 minutes, rated R. Like John said, released on February 7th, 2020. And before we say anything else, let's just give our straightforward opinions right out the gate because I'm very curious to know. I've been trying to tell John. I was like, I'm curious, and this whole DCEU. I've been like, I'm curious to know what you're going to think of this movie. I'm curious to know how it's going to sit with you because it's a very different DCEU movie. But now that you've seen it, now that you've watched it, I know you've only seen it once, and you watched it at home. But I want to hear your thoughts. Throw it out on the table.
I really enjoyed this movie. I wouldn't. One of my favorites of the DCEU, but I think it's really well made. I think the tone is pretty. It's pretty much all there through and through. Whereas like some of these other DC movies, it's like there's a bunch of different plot points going on, and sometimes they're not entirely sure which movie they're making. At Aquaman or Batman v Superman or something.
Yeah.
I love how this is a singular vision. I think the Harley Quinn narration is really well. I think that's a great implementation of that because this movie read to me and appeared to me as if I was reading a Birds of Prey comic book, especially the Amanda Conner Harley Quinn series, which if you guys have not read that before is fantastic. I'm glad this was rated R because I do think that serves these characters particularly well. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. This iteration is light years better than the Suicide Squad iteration. And I loved Ewan as Black Mask, Roman Sionis. But yeah, that's just kind of like my surface level thing. So yeah, enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. It's like I don't know. It's like a fucked up Ragnarok or something like that. It's like
sure.
It's rock and roll music and like hijinks and stuff like that and great comedic beats, but they're all like really dark, Yeah. So some black humor going on in this. What about you?
I really like it. I remember leaving the theater and being like, just like kind of on it. I remember leaving the theater and being like, I liked a lot of it, but I also thought that some of I felt like some of the stuff like dragged a little bit on. Like I almost think that this movie could have even been trimmed down to even be even shorter than an hour and
like
50
an hour
minutes
40.
or whatever. Like
I think it could have been 90.
I think it could have been even shorter than but like because the plot is so simple. It's all of these different badass anti-hero chicks get together, and they're all kind of entangled in this plot surrounding Black Mask and Gotham in general. And it's a cool idea. And this is exactly what Suicide Squad should have been, where it's a small scale story. Like Suicide Squad tried to be this grand epic movie where there's an end of the world thing and this demon monster that
gotta cut her heart out.
Yeah, right. And it just didn't work because you have these characters that are not superheroes doing stuff that like mercenaries would do. And that's the whole thing of this movie, is that it's kind of just like a crime movie. And I don't know. I find like watching it back a second time, I'm like, it moves a little quicker the second time I saw it, because I think it's a little I remember it being very disorienting the first time I saw it, because it's like they do a lot of stuff with flashbacks and rewinding time a little bit to show different perspectives of scenarios, and they do it so that at the very end you have this moment where they're all together and working for a common goal. But watching it the first time, I remember being like, well, who's this? I don't care about this person. Like, I want to get back to Margot Robbie and Harley. But it's like watching it a second time, knowing these characters, knowing all the stuff with, first of all, I just got to get it right out the gate. I have the biggest crush on Mary Elizabeth Winstead. And she is so fucking awesome in this movie. And I wish that they used her more. But like watching her the first time, I was like, man, I really want to get back to her. Why is she here? What's important about her? And then they reveal the whole thing about you're going to have to help me with comic lore here, Bertinelli.
The Bertinelli diamond.
Yeah. And like the whole, like the Bertinelli massacre and all that shit. And I'm just like, this is so rad.
Bertinelli.
Like, yeah, I'd watch a whole movie about this shit. And I really hope that Mary Elizabeth Winstead gets this role back in a future movie, because I would totally love to see her take this role further, because I think she's awesome in it. But
yeah, I agree. I thought she was cool. I loved their take on Black Canary and Dinah Lance. I thought that was really cool. And I liked how they didn't lean on her ability so much quite until like the third act fight, because.
And you really only get that one little payoff.
Yeah, as soon as you just start sonic blasting everybody, it gets really cheesy and expensive. So.
But yeah, I think above all else, like, and I know like they all give such great performance. I think Margot Robbie is like, she's hamming it up, but it's in a good way. Like, I feel like she was like held back in Suicide Squad, and in this, she's able to kind of like, I mean, obviously she's
supposed to ham it up. Yeah. She's Harley Quinn.
And
she's she's an unreliable narrator too. We should take that into consideration. So
yeah,
if this movie is from her perspective, there could be things that are Harley Quinn filtered,
Yeah.
Which they do a good job of.
Yeah, I think that they do a great job with her, and this feels like, I don't know, it's just heads and tails such a better movie than Suicide Squad. Like beat for beat, everything, the plot, the characters, the writing. Yeah. You actually feel a sense of like, you actually care about some characters in this, and it's like, it's just so crazy that this movie came from the same studio that made Suicide Squad, and it boggles my mind. But like, how a studio can grow up.
Shout out to my guy Doc, the Taiwanese restaurant owner. That guy really
slaps.
Good heat check performance. He's like in there for like 3 minutes. I was like, this guy's killing it right now.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, and that
scene, like packing up. He's packing up his Chevy van. He's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, one of my favorite interactions is the whole when they do the explanation about who the Huntress is, and like.
Yeah,
he has that interaction with her. He's like, I don't know who you are. The crossbow killer. But yeah,
that's the thing too. This movie's funny, really funny.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's got some great humor moments.
Yeah, there was a couple of times where I laughed quite a bit about some stuff. So
yeah, I really like my favorite. I think my favorite sequence in the entire movie, stem to stern, is when she went from. The like the egg sandwich bit, like where she wants to get breakfast.
The chase?
Yeah, and then there's like the chase, but it's like all the people that like she runs into multiple people that have grudges against her that find out that she and the Joker broke up, and so it's like I like the guy with the tattoos on his face, and she's like, "All right, what did I do to you?" He's like, "Look at my
Like clown face tattoos. Yeah.
And then that guy gets an arrow through the neck, and then it's I don't know. It's just it's goofy, and they play with the action in a really cool way too. Like I really love it can be overused. Yeah, it's violent, but
very violent and grotesque.
But I like how colorful it is sometimes. Like there's some grotesque scenes, like when not Zaz gets blown up, but when Black Mask gets blown up, and it's like just like body parts scattering or whatever. But like.
I was kind of disappointed that happened because I was digging Ewan so much, and I was like, keep him around. Let's save one of these DC villains because maybe he could come back. But
let's get to Ewan here in a sec. Let's hold on Ewan.
Let's just put it this way: Ewan McGregor sleeps with the fishes.
Yeah, right. But yeah, the action is so colorful. Like I love the scene where she breaks into the PD and like has like the cannon with like mustard and confetti and like.
Yeah,
it's just
like
not what you're.
King.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
but yeah, let's talk about Ewan McGregor.
All right, yeah, let's do surface level, and then let's try and breeze through that plot because the synopsis is going to be wild because I've only seen it once. So
yeah, oh boy.
Yeah, but Ewan, he's playing Roman Sionis, who's one of the Gotham higher billionaires in Batman DC Comics lore. Runs the Janus Corporation, which is obviously, in Greek and Roman mythology, that's the two-faced god of like night and day or something like that. So, kind of symbolizing that like when he wears his mask, he's one person, and when he's not, he's like just an average Joe Schmo business guy. But I love how he plays him really insecure, and is like. The thing that cracked me up the most was I was like, why is Victor Zsasz of all people his like calm me down guy, because Zsasz is like such a fucked up Batman villain in the comic books and games and stuff. And I just thought that was a really fresh and interesting take, but not one that I didn't hate in the way that like some of the other DCEU fresh takes are.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting
standout
too.
Scene for me for Ewan is like, there's two where I'm like, this guy is evil as shit. It's obviously the face cutting scene.
Yeah.
And then the one in the nightclub made me really uncomfortable.
Oh, dude, that scene is so hard to watch.
Like making the guy cut the dress off the other lady. Yeah. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this motherfucker's he's got to die.
And I love that too. Like that's one of those things is that DC, comic book movies in general, not just DC, sometimes they have a bad time of making the audience really hate the bad guy. You want to hate the bad guy. Like, even though Harley Quinn is an anti-hero or whatever, like, you want to dislike the bad guy. Oftentimes, they don't give him very much motivation. You're just like, oh, he's bad, so I should hate him because he's bad. But it's like, in this movie, they really do a good job of showing that Sionis does a lot of shit that's just, like, fucking awful. And you really want to see him, like, you want to see him fail and lose. And I think that that's such a great decision because they could have easily I don't know, gone too light on it, and I think that they hit it right on the head with you. And I think that
I also
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I also really love, and this ties into my love for Batman Long Halloween, but I love the Gotham crime families, and that extends not only past the Falcones and the Maronis, but also like Roman Sionis, the Joker's crime family, Penguin, and the Cobblepots, and I love when these gangs are fighting or it's just like turf wars and stuff like that, Yeah. Kind of reminds me of like season 1 of Daredevil and things like that.
I mean, that's part of the thing that I love about really like Long Halloween is that like, or like some of the comics that you've recommended to me is like some of the Gotham crime stuff is some of my favorite shit. And I think that they touched on it really, really well in this. And it makes me really want like a Falcone Maroni movie. Like it makes me want that so bad.
That's what I'm hoping. Matt Reeves, if you're listening, please get some game we're going with the Riddler and the Cobblepots and stuff like that. Cause it looks like that could be what we get. It looks like a very grounded, I want the Sopranos meets Batman. Yeah.
So before Ewan McGregor was cast as Black Mask, Nicolas Cage, Charlton Copley, and Sam Rockwell were all considered to play Black Mask. Rockwell passed on the role.
I think Rockwell would have been really good.
So that's the thing. Rockwell passed on the role, but he was considered, quote, the archetype for the casting.
Yeah.
I can see that for sure.
he would have been perfect if he plays like a more violent Justin Hammer. That's exactly who Roman Sionis should be.
I call this one the ex-wife.
However, I've called his Uncle Gazpacho or the Puff the Magic Dragon.
He's so good in that movie, man. I love him.
I know. He's way better than Whiplash and
Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
Palladium, bad for the blood.
Anthony? Is that Anthony Stark over there? Hey, what's up, Anthony? Yeah. Love me some Justin Hammer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Also, another fun fact: the Penguin was originally intended to be the main antagonist of the movie, but was scrapped due to his forthcoming appearance in the Batman. So, like,
that's smart.
There was some discussion there. Yeah, you don't. I think Black Mask is the perfect villain for this kind of movie. You don't want to have such a huge person like Cobblepot. Like I love how. Again, I'm going to keep coming back to it. I love how small and contained this story is of Harley Quinn. Like, I think that it's just so.
They're using the D-level Batman Rogues Gallery roster, which I really appreciated because for me as like a big Batman comics fan, I was like, this is some really good deep cut stuff.
Yeah.
Also, before we dive into the plot too, staying on Black Mask, one of the only other popular iterations of this character is in Arkham Origins, where he's not actually Roman Sionis. If you haven't played that game, it turns out to be the Joker controlling him the whole time. So we've never actually gotten to see the real Black Mask on like a popular wavelength, which is really cool. So dude, Ewan McGregor, one of my faves.
He's so good, dude. And he's so good.
He crushes it. Spoilers, he's probably my favorite performance in the movie. Like,
that's the thing is that like I feel bad saying it, and I wanted to say this earlier, but like I almost feel bad
Robbie, but I just was so attracted to his performance.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that Ewan McGregor just steals every scene that he's in, and like I think Margot Robbie is a fantastic actress, and I really like Songbird, and I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I think everyone in this movie gives a really fantastic. I don't think there's a bad performance in this entire movie. Like even the kid, like what's her name?
The actress's name?
The pickpocket
or the character? The character is Cassandra Cain.
Cassandra Cain, which I'm excited for you to tell me details about it because I don't know any of these fuckers.
I'm about to blow your little fucking mind when I tell you about Cassandra Cain.
Okay.
So,
well, I know that she's supposed to be a mute.
The actress's name is Ella J. Bascom.
Okay, yeah, I know that she's supposed to be a mute in versions of the comics.
And she bats for the other team in the comics. She literally, pun intended, she's on the Bat family, not the crime family side.
Really? She's a Wayne?
Let's just get this out of the way now. Cassandra Cain is like a mute ninja who trains with the League of Assassins in the League of Shadows and then is not comfortable with how they are, a la Batman Begins. And eventually she's Batgirl for a little bit.
No
Barbara
shit.
Gordon can't do it. And now her character is called Orphan, who wears like an all black Batman costume because she's also an orphan, you know.
Isn't Batman's costume already all black?
Like, she's kind of like Silent Bob. She like only speaks every once in a while, and it's like in very abbreviated, sentences and stuff like that. But yeah, she's really badass. One of my favorite uses of her is in the early Rebirth run of Detective Comics, when Batman assembles a team led by Batwoman, featuring Tim Drake's Red Robin, Orphan, and Clayface. They're all on a team together, and that is really dope. So
okay, well, they severely changed that character for this film.
Yeah, they did. They certainly did.
He's a pickpocket with a cast.
It looked to me, and this isn't taking anything away from the character, but to me, it seemed like they were like. Have you seen Ocean's 8?
Yeah, a long time ago, yeah.
Okay. It seems like Margot Robbie watched that and she's like, I want an Awkwafina-esque pickpocket character. Okay. And that's just what they went with. So, But I loved how she was like the MacGuffin of this movie. So it's like, because of the fact that she swallows the diamond, everyone's looking for a kid instead. That makes it a lot more.
It leads to one of my favorite scenes. It leads to one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, which is the grocery sequence. I don't know why, but I just love Harley Quinn going shopping for groceries. That just tickles me in a way that I can't tell you. But, all right, let's do some sort of cobbled together plot, I guess.
Yeah, this is because the movie jumps around in
Yes.
time too. So this is gonna be really hard. But
Well, I'm gonna try my best to help out.
Yeah. So the movie begins with the animation sequence, which is really cool, about Harley Quinn's origin story, which is handled much better than the flashback in Suicide Squad. So it shows her like
she's got the souls of her enemies trapped in his victims or whatever.
Her sword traps the souls of its victims. But yeah, so this animation sequence covers her like, psychiatry education background and then falling in love with the Joker. And this was something that we talked about a long time ago, but I loved how they incorporated the Joker in this movie. He's only ever like drawn as a picture or even an animated sequence. So except for like behind the head shots that are like spliced in scenes from Suicide Squad.
And that's what I want to, that's one thing I want to talk about right out the gate is that, yeah, there is that one shot of, it's when they're talking about the guy with the tattoos on his face. And there's a shot of him on the tattoo chair, her laughing next to him. But then it's clearly the green slicked back Joker hair and like the suit looking thing. So it's like, that's the one shot I wish they just completely either edited him out or found a way to shoot it where it's more ambiguous, because I wish that I could watch this movie and not think about Suicide Squad. But unfortunately, I have to watch this movie and think about Suicide Squad.
Yeah, unfortunately. But not very much.
C'est la vie.
Yeah. So we start the movie with her talking about how she's, with the Joker for a little bit, but then they eventually split up. And she's like talking about how he's more heartbroken about it than she is. But clearly, based on the visuals we're seeing, she is struggling with it. And they just dive right in. She is recovering from this breakup very poorly. She's out at nightclubs owned by Roman Sionis. She's getting shit canned. She's taking drugs and talking to statues, puking in people's handbags and stuff. Harley Quinn, you and me would have fun at Bullwinkles.
Oh, fucking hell yeah. Dude, Harley Quinn would fit in perfectly with our group. Link up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. She might kill one of us on accident, but,
That's fine. I'm fine with it. I love, again, like this movie is also shot better than a lot of DCEU films where there's like some clever cutaways, and the way that I really like, this is going to be hard for me to describe to you, but I really like the way they fill the frame of each shot. Like there's never a frame that's just like a straight up
it's
shot
real people.
Well, it's not, it's that too, but it's also like, I'm thinking of when she's walking through the streets and there's like, she's passing through like a market and stuff. And you see like people behind her doing things and like there's color in the background. It's not just static shot of person against backdrop. Like, I don't know. It makes the movie just so much more interesting to look at visually. And I like this bar scene a lot because of it.
Yeah. But yeah, we get like montages of her like drinking and hanging out with friends that aren't really good friends. And they're like talking behind her back about how she's just going to go back to the Joker, the next alpha male that comes along, really setting up this, internal plot for Harley Quinn, which is like, can she exist on her own? Which is something that the character in comics has gone on to do for the better part of half of a decade now, not being with the Joker. And she's also doing like roller derby and stuff, but she's like hockey checking guys into the wall and stuff like that.
Yep.
But yeah, so in one of these, nightclub sequences, this guy's like calling her like a slut and stuff. And she does this really grotesque thing where she jumps and like lands and breaks his legs, just like snapped like a twig. And I watched this with Frida. And she screamed out loud because of how like grotesque it was.
Did you watch the whole movie with Frida?
Mm-hmm.
Did she enjoy them?
It's just me and her and the cat right now. So she liked it. She did not know about Harley Quinn she doesn't really know anything about Batman or the Joker or anything like that. So this was going in very, very blind.
Interesting. So here's one thing I'll interject is when Carly, I saw this with Carly, and when our theater was like, it was like a weekday in February. It wasn't opening weekend. We saw this a little bit late. And so our theater was only like half full, if that. But this got the most audible reaction from the entire movie. It was like when she does this, like I heard like multiple people go like, and like sink back in their chair.
It's tough to watch, man. It's like when you're watching a football game. Yeah, and you see somebody like get an ACL tear and you're like.
This is the most Quentin Tarantino this movie gets, is this moment, I think. Because then she
like continues the face cutting scene.
Well, but Yeah,
That seems like something that would be in Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, true. Stuck in the middle with you.
I don't know why I came from you tonight. That's what this movie could have used. You know what would have been good? And this is not shitting on the guy's performance, but Michael Madsen as Victor Zsasz sounds pretty intriguing to me, actually. I'm scared.
I don't know who
guy.
the actor
He's
is.
He's a terrifying human. We'll look it up later.
I'll look it up right now, yeah.
Sure. But yeah, so this kind of begins to set up the fact that, and she talks about this in her overview monologue, but Harley Quinn has not told people that the Joker has broken up with her because she knows that she could potentially have a target on her back, or that that's where all of her power comes from, is being with the Joker gives her immunity to do things at clubs and to kill people in the underworld. And she just kind of gets away with stuff because no one wants to piss off Mr. J, you know? And, you know, I'm pretty sure this montage ends with her drunkenly stumbling to decides to drive the semi-truck right into Ace Chemicals and just blow it the hell up. And shout out to this poor truck driver that was just taking a leak on the job. He's going to get fired from that trucking company for letting a mass murderer take his vehicle.
Yeah. It's funny. I like this because it's like, oh, I've got an idea. And you kind of get the impression that she doesn't really have an idea, but the idea is like, oh, I'm just going to fucking fuck shit up. But it actually ends up being the catalyst for the whole movie, which is, it's cool. Like, yes, I don't know, that's cool.
And that's what I think is cool, is it like, this is the inciting incident, which then they backtrack and show what some of the other characters have been up to in the days and the hours leading up to that moment.
Yeah.
But we are also introduced towards the beginning of the film to Renee Montoya, who is a fantastic Batman character. She's a detective on the GCPD. She's played by Rosie Perez in this movie. I thought she was great.
Yeah, she's really cool. She's awesome.
Yeah. This joke early on where she's like, she's seen every cheesy 80 action cop movie and stuff like that. And I was like, she is the Danny Glover to this group's Mel Gibson. If this is a Lethal Weapon movie, you know, she's the straight man for the most part. Besides that, one of my favorite sequences was, what does that shirt say that she's wearing?
I shaved my balls for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's because Harley Quinn throws a garbage bag at her, which is what happened. We'll get to that, but that's yeah.
Oh my God. I was cracking up.
Yeah, it's like, really funny.
So funny. But yeah, so we see, you know, Renee Montoya is kind of overshadowed by her male employees within the GCPD who take credits for all of her things, you know, and she's one of the good cops. You know, if this is a Dark Knight movie, she's Gordon. She's like one of the only uncorruptible cops in the GCPD. But they do poke at her fatal flaw is like, I guess she's an alcoholic, kind of. Like they hint at that, and she does like get sauced later on before she goes and fights Harley Quinn.
Well,
but that's something that's kind of new because Renee Montoya is a lot more straight edge in the comic books. But I liked how they made her a little more grizzled. If this is the Batfleck universe, Renee Montoya would be an alcoholic. So,
and a funny thing too is that like, this isn't like a nationality thing at all. It's just the way that the character like kind of like holds themselves, and it is kind of like a visual look too. Like, but I see a lot of Michelle Rodriguez in this performance, especially in the Fast and Furious films. Like,
sure.
I don't know, just that kind of like grizzled, like I'm gonna fuck you up sort of. I don't know. I loved her performance. I thought she was great throughout the whole film.
For sure.
I also know nothing about this character. I don't remember seeing. Has she been in something Batman related that I've read? Because I can't remember her at all.
Montoya?
Yeah.
She's mostly in the animated series.
Okay.
Would be probably the thing that you would have seen her in the most. But not anything that I've suggested for you to read.
Okay.
This is a character born in the 80s in terms of comics, I think. So
okay.
A fairly new character, but a fan favorite, especially for the nationality and stuff like that. So there's a great episode of the animated series featuring her, Harvey Bullock, and like a new beat cop, like a private.
Okay.
And it's like a detective noir episode where they're all getting interrogated by Gordon for being on the scene of a police sting that went wrong. So, and it's an episode that doesn't really feature Batman at all, but it's really good. So check that out.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's called POV actually. But yeah, so also in this opening montage sequence via flashback, I'm kind of going chronologically, not necessarily in the order that the movie happens.
That's fine.
Because this is really hard for me to remember. But Dinah Lance is, yeah.
I was trying to think of where we were. What was the last thing that we talked about? Was the detective? They're talking. They're talking
Harley
in the club,
crashes, and then she crashes the semi, and then Montoya's on the scene, and it rewinds for like 4 hours, and I guess we should mention she's investigating a murder, and she realizes that this person gets shot with a crossbow.
They're like, this guy, whoever it was wanted this guy to die really slowly.
This guy here. Yeah. And it's a really cool scene because it's like, it's shot and edited in a way that it's like she's in the room while that scene is occurring, even though that happened several hours before, which is who we will come to find out is the Huntress.
Again,
just like wrecked these guys.
Just clever use of editing too, like what you were saying with like having her in the scene, like, but it's actually playing out in real time in the flashback or whatever. It's just like, God, yeah, it's cool. It keeps you invested, and I don't. It's just crazy. Again, I'm going to keep saying this. It's crazy to me that these people made Suicide Squad. Not these exact people, but that this studio made Suicide Squad. Because
I agree.
Oh man, but yeah, keep going. So after this, like the Ace Chemicals plant explosion.
Right. And so then the Ace Chemicals plant happens, and I think the next thing that happens on screen is Montoya is in the GCPD the next day. And she's meeting with her boss, or is no. So what happens next is it's a rough night, and the next morning Harley goes to get her breakfast sandwich. This is what happens. Yes. I'm remembering things now. Okay, so she's hungover, and she's talking about, she's like, the one cure for this hangover is the perfect sandwich, and this guy's like sensually cracking eggs on a flat top and stuff, and
it looks fucking dank. You know what I mean?
It looks good. It's like eggs, bacon, American cheese, hot sauce on a ciabatta roll with a little bit of a little bit of melted butter. I would have preferred a little bit of chipotle aioli spread on the top of that bun. So
yeah, well, I liked her whole like, not too much hot sauce. I want to taste the cheese or whatever.
She's not too much, Sal. I want to taste that cheese.
Oh, yeah. Sal.
That's his name. Behind every great Italian chef is someone named Sal.
The Margot Robbie?
Just kidding.
Exquisite.
Yeah. Exquisite. Yeah. So she gets this sandwich and she's ready to dive in. And I love how she doesn't have enough money to afford it, but this guy's like cool with her, owing her 75 cents. And she's like, I'm good for it. But yeah, she gets outside and she's about to dive in. And then this is when the kind of like the hijinks, Tom and Jerry type chase comes in, because Montoya shows up because she knows that it's Harley Quinn who wrecked the semi into Ace Chemicals.
So,
and not only
I'm skimming through the movie right now to remember things because this is tricky. This movie is tricky because we're going to have a lot of this. We're going to try and streamline
because we haven't
the plot.
Seen it much.
Yeah. And it's tricky because they do a lot with like jumping back and forth with different characters, but we missed the scene. The scene with the face cutting happens between the Montoya scene and the breakfast sandwich.
Part of me wonders, maybe we should go character by character.
Are you reading the Wikipedia synopsis?
Yeah, and it's not helpful. It's not in the order that the movie's in.
Yeah,
it's also very vague.
We can try however we want. We can cobble this shit together. We can also just start talking.
I think if we go if we do character by character, so let's do all the members of the Birds of Prey and Black Mask, then we'll be able to remember their sequences in order and how they converge at the end. I think that would be easier.
All right, let's fucking do it. I don't care. It's not like this show has any sort of
production value.
Yeah, or production value, fuck it.
All right, so let's talk about this face cutting scene then real quick, and then we'll dive in.
Super scary. Really disturbing.
Yeah, so Sionis gets introduced in the opening club scene. He's just kind of like hanging out. And then the first time we see him really doing some stuff is he's with Zaz. And they got these 3 people hanging upside down, which we will come to find out is another crime family that he's trying to extort into getting some protection payment plan set up. And this guy's like, I don't need protection. He's like, why don't you think about it and come and meet me at the docks tomorrow and we'll discuss it. And we come to find out that he's just going to kill this guy instead. But yeah, was really gruesome. So Zaz is like cutting these guys' faces off like freaking Silence of the Lambs, you know?
Yeah.
The thing that sticks out to me though about this scene is he's going to let one of them go. And he like looks at her and he's like, you can go. And she's like, thank you. He's like, oh, gross. Is that a snot bubble? Never mind. Kill her. And I was like, what the fuck? This guy is so messed up.
He's unhinged. It's really disturbing. Ewan gives a great performance because he's like so cute about it. He's like, oh, and I love his mannerisms.
He's very eccentric.
Like,
yeah.
My favorite, eccentric. We'll get to it, but my favorite Ewan moment is when he's talking about the shrunken heads and he's like, this guy was, this is a 500-year-old shrunken head, and now he's just an ornament in my living room. Ew. I love that moment. It's so good.
Yeah. So that's actually probably coming up in terms of if we just want to hit all the Black Mask scenes real quick. I can just kind of do it that way if you want, or we can just try and put this together. It's like trying to piece together Humpty Dumpty.
Let's try and piece it together because we're already so far. If we really fuck it up, we'll go back. So now we're at the car chase, right? Now we're at the car chase. Or the Margarati chase.
Everyone's chasing her. So not only is Montoya chasing her, but like all of the people that she's wronged. It's a great scene where like every time somebody shows up, it says like name this, grievance this, and it flashes back to her grievance. The best one, like you mentioned, is the guy that gets his face tattooed.
Yeah.
Or the fact that there's the guy driving the van and she like killed his twin brother who sold her the hyena.
Yeah.
That one was pretty funny.
Fed hyena too, or whatever.
Fed brother to hyena.
Yeah. But yeah, there's like the roller derby girl. I'm watching through shit and it's like,
he's
running through the market and
but it's just like, it's very bright. It's daylight, which is good. It's progress for DCEU.
Very. And I really like how every time it pauses, she's like doodling on them. It's almost like she's doing this in real time. And
they tried to do this in Suicide Squad and it didn't work. You remember? This was like the intros to all the characters where it's like musical cues for each person. And it's like name Harley Quinn. She's a super freak. And she's like in the club with Common and stuff like that. And it's just like this as her as a sole narrator is handled much better. And I think that's the problem with Suicide Squad is it's not one sole narrator. Whereas like this is all from the internal mind of Harley Quinn, which is a jumbled mess already as it is. And that's, why the movie is structured as such.
So then, how she gets away from this sequence is there's my favorite part where Montoya, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's holding the gun at her. She sees the car coming from behind her. She takes the garbage bag and throws it at her, and then the guy swerves to move and hits the guy in the wheelchair. And then
the former driver for Black Mask, and
then she like climbs up the thing.
This is what I like too, is it's kind of like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So she's like breaking the fourth wall constantly and talking to the camera. And she like looks and she's like, maybe it's a little luck, and she like winks. But yeah, so she escapes.
But yeah, then there's the altercation in the hall. There's the guy you see, crossbow killer. She shoots the face paint guy, and then it's like the guys like kind of converge on her, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then this is our first like hard cut, right? Because then she takes out the little thing and she's like, parlay.
Yeah. So she gets cornered and she surrenders.
So then we go to the GCPD where Montoya is sitting at the desk with the girl, the younger girl.
Ali Wong's character. Oh, Cassandra Cain. You're right. Yeah.
And she's like,
she gets brought in on a pickpocketing charge, and she just kind of talks to her a little bit and kind of brushes her off. You see that these characters have a history together. Like she's always in and out of GCPD.
Yeah.
But this scene leads to her having her conversation with their boss, and they wind up, giving her case away to the that asshole cop that's in there, and she's working with the assistant district attorney's office, which they never mentioned. But is the DA Harvey Dent in this world? Do we know that yet?
I guess we'll have no idea until the Batman, or if that even remotely ties in with anything. You don't think so?
No. In the DCEU, I would love to see Ryan Gosling play Harvey Dent, though. I think that'd be really interesting.
Give Ryan Gosling any role in the DCEU, and I'll be a happy boy. I'll be a happy.
I would love to see him
boy.
play Dent and Russell Crowe play the Penguin.
I think Russell Crowe.
Are you not entertained?
Have you watched the Russell Crowe movie about him being like a rage driver? Have you seen this?
No.
Russell Crowe's in a movie that was supposed to come to theaters this year, but it's just released on VOD. But he has a severe case of road rage, and he murders like a whole family. That's the whole plot of this movie.
Yikes!
Yeah, apparently it's really bad.
Moving along, because we're getting buried in the.
I know we're getting in the weeds.
I'm trying to piece this together, and it's getting hard.
We're fine,
but so that the police sequence then transitions into Montoya while she's having this. She's getting an incoming call from an unknown caller.
Yep.
We come to find out that this caller is Dinah Lance, who's calling her and saying that everyone's out looking for this girl. During the police case, when she was talking to the police chief, Montoya had mentioned that she believes everyone's after the Bertinelli diamond from the famous Bertinelli murders, and they get a little flashback sequence of that, which is, we'll come to find out Helena's backstory a little later on, and we can touch on that scene when we get the full version of it with Huntress later on.
Yeah.
But so then they're like, the diamonds with this girl, Cassandra Cain, and she's like, motherfucker, like, because she just saw the kid. So while that's about to happen, this is also when two plot points happen. We get Dinah Lance's backstory, as well as Harley Quinn breaking into the GCPD and shooting people with beanbags and stuff.
And I love
which is a fun scene.
It's so fun, but I love how it the introduction too, because it's shot at low, and she's got like this black like trench coat
it's like
on,
the Terminator,
and she goes, I'd hate to report a terrible crime. And then she's like shooting these motherfuckers. The first guy she shoots, the beanbag hits him right here, and his glasses like split apart.
Glasses. Yeah.
It's so good, man. It looks so, again, like the action is just so much more visually appealing to look at in this movie.
Frida brought up an interesting point. This is the only sequence in the movie where nobody uses lethal force. Why does Harley Quinn go to the GCPD and kill people or shoot people with beanbags, but the rest of the movie she like kills people and breaks their legs and stuff? It's an interesting choice. Just saying. They're all criminals. You'd think she would kill. Maybe she
knew that things could get worse for her if she just shot up a police station. Yeah,
it's like GTA. Like once you start attacking the cops, things get worse. But
your star level raises.
Yeah, I get that would be a really funny way to edit the scene. Is like the star rating just goes up as she's attacking people. But yeah, so for the Dinah Lance backstory, which is narrated by Harley Quinn, we see her singing in the nightclub. This is another good, Roman Sionis scene, I think, which is like, he's running the club and she's singing, and you could tell that people aren't really paying attention to her and that she's been doing this gig for a while, kind of, but she's like crushing it and like breaks the glass with her voice, which is a little set up to the payoff later of her using her sonic voice abilities.
It's cool too. It's like she's also singing like, what's a man without a woman? And it's like, fucking let's go, baby. And I also love again, like Ewan McGregor just killing it. Like I love his performance of like, are you having a good time? Yeah, you're having a good time.
Yeah,
it's like, let's
this
get
is
drinks.
Woo! Who's having a good time? Yeah.
He does this like multiple times too. Like when he goes to kill Harley later, like kill Harley, he walks down and he's just like, oh, he's like doing Ric Flair all up in this shit.
Yeah. He's having a great time. But so while this is happening, after she finishes performing, Harley Quinn is at the nightclub, one of the many nights that she's just getting sauced there. And they have this heart-to-heart about, and she's like, I haven't told anyone yet, but the Joker and I broke up. And she's like, Harley Quinn is somebody with a master, like someone who needs a master. And she's like, no one really gives a shit about us. We're just people who serve somebody else. And, Black Canary is her nickname, is Dinah Lance's nickname. And she's like, speak for yourself. But like, she is kind of under the thumb of Roman.
And I like that she's writing her own business card, like addendums on the card. And then she's like, how do you spell mercenary? Mercenary.
Yeah. And so, once leaves, this creepy guy is like trying to get Harley Quinn drinks, and, it's gross. We've seen this happen thousands of times in our world, but Dinah finishes her shift, and bold move, parking her nice car out in a Gotham City alley, convertible with the top down. Bold move.
Yeah, someone's pooping in that thing.
Definitely. Yeah, or Harley's like thrown up in it. Yeah,
Joe Chill is definitely taking a dump inside your convertible.
Joe Chill's sleeping in her car. But yeah, so she gets done with her shift and she's getting in her car, and this guy and this other person's like trying to load Harley into the back because Harley's like completely intoxicated. And we get to see Dinah kick these guys' ass and save her, which is really cool. But the fun thing about the scene is while this is happening, Ewan's just like drinking scotch, watching from the window. Look at my pretty bird. She's kicking it. And he promotes her. He sends Zaz down to tell her that she's going to be his new driver to take place of Broken Legs guy.
Again, I can't pass over this action sequence without calling out. This movie has a lot of awesome action choreography. One of the best bits is this moment where she knocks the guy down so he's on his knees and kind of like struggling to get up, and then she kicks the door so that it comes and hits through his head. It's so cool looking, man. I love the choreography. It looks great.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of happens also chronologically before this, and kind of a little bit of dramatic irony for us, is that Montoya goes to visit Dinah at her apartment. And I'm not sure when that happens chronologically, but this does take place in the film. But chronologically, this takes place before the entire day begins. They have this sequence where she's like, your mom used to help the GCPD. Like, we could really use your help. You work with Sionis. We think he's going after the diamond. Could you be an informant? And she's like, being an informant cost me her life, in Gotham City. So she's like, fuck off. Like, you don't want to be a rat in Gotham City. It's always a bad move. So, but yeah, so Dinah gets promoted to the driver, and the next day, this takes place right before, in terms of chronologically, this takes place before Harley breaks into the GCPD. So what happens is Roman sends Zaz and Dinah, and I think the scene that happens before he sends them is he's like freaking out about the crossbow killer. And this was one of my favorite parts, where she's like, why don't you work for me? I love crossbows. Like, the crossbows are cool. And, he's just like, he's freaking out, and Zaz is like rubbing his shoulders, like pulling him down.
Yeah. And this is the part that I like, where
you were talking about.
Yeah. Canary comes in and like, he's like, come and look at all my shit.
He's like, look at my stuff. Yeah. And he's like, and he's got a statue of himself. But yeah, so, and this is when Zaz also breaks the news that Harley Quinn's single, right? So
way to bury the lead, Zaz.
Yeah. They're going to go get the diamond, and then they're going to try to get Harley Quinn too. They're going to bring her in. But after they get the diamond, there's a sequence of Cassandra Cain walking down the street. And this is how her day begins. This is almost kind of like Vantage Point, or like a Rashomon thing. But
you did not just bring up Vantage Point. That movie sucks, dude.
Matthew Fox at his finest, right?
That movie, Vantage Point. I remember seeing Vantage Point in the theater on release weekend because I was like, I love Lost so much. I have to watch Matthew Fox in his first big movie.
You know what a good Matthew Fox movie is? We Are Marshall with Matthew McConaughey, the football movie.
Yeah.
That's a good one. But Cassandra Cain pickpockets that. She gets the diamond. And she gets, captured by the police. And while she's riding in the police car, she swallows the diamond. So we got to set that up. Because then once the word gets out that the diamond's with Cassandra Cain, now instead of everybody going after Harley Quinn, they're now trying to find the diamond, including Harley. She's going after her. That's why she breaks into the GCPD.
Yeah. So then after that, we get the acupuncture scene.
You talk about the acupuncture scene because
there's not really much to talk, but Ewan McGregor's like laying on the thing and there's like a needle going into his head. And it's super uncomfortable. But this is where he loses his shit, where he's like, fuck. And he's like throwing pillows and he's like, this is my thing. This is my stuff. Yeah. But then this is when Zaz tells him, like, we have Harley Quinn. She's downstairs. Why don't we go kill her? You've been wanting to do that for a while. And he's like, yeah, I have been wanting to do that for a while.
For sure.
Also, something I want to bring up.
This happens before the police scene too, right? Because he's the one that sends her to the GCPD. Like she's talking about, you lost the diamond. Let me go get it for you.
Yeah, this happens before that. Because that's how he does it.
This is all over the place.
Yeah, I know. But like something I want to bring up while we're getting to that point, because I'm watching the video as we go through this. But does Victor Zsasz and Black Mask ever have like a sexual relationship? Because I almost get sort of like kind of like a sexual relationship between the two of them in this.
I don't think Victor Zsasz in the comic books has a sexual relationship with anybody besides his knives.
Okay. But do you get that from this at all?
He's in love with Violet. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Okay. He's like, I got to be there for him. He needs, they painted like this very, not really subtle, but like this working homosexual relationship, which I was kind of in. Like I could see Ewan McGregor's Black Mask being like bisexual or gay, just the way that he acts. But I liked it. It was a cool take.
Yeah, it's almost like
it humanizes Zaz a little more because normally he's just like this. He's like the ghost face killer who just like slashes people and then cuts himself, And it's just kind of like that's this thing. Whereas like this kind of makes him, like he cares for one other person.
So so then we get to the interrogation where they go to kill Harley. And like this is when
I love how he's eating popcorn.
Yes, that's one of the great things. But one of my favorite things is it does the thing for Roman where it's like name Roman Sionis and then grievance. But then one of the best things it says, disabled, pronounced it espresso, which I think is great. Has a vagina and voted for Bernie is one of of the things, and I laugh at that every time I see it.
It's very funny.
But yeah,
it's great.
It's cool to know that Harley Quinn's a Bernie supporter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so this scene is also spiced in with while they're kind of like beating her up a little bit. She's like having these visions of like her as a burlesque singer and like working at his club, and they're like dancing and stuff. It's a really cool sequence.
Yeah, very visually appealing.
It's all happening inside her head, obviously. But, this sets up the rest of the movie. And this should be pretty much beat by beat the rest of the way out.
Yeah.
I fucking hope so. Because
I think the only other thing is like when you start to talk about the Bertinelli thing, when you start introducing Huntress. But like basically everything else is like kind of beat for beat,
So let's grind it out. Let's do it. Now we got the gravy trains are rolling. Let's do this. So I see you winding, grinding. So Harley, we get back to the present time, and Harley just took out everybody, and she goes to the holding cells, and there's this great sequence where smoke detectors go off, and the water starts coming in for the fire, and there's this like fight sequence where everybody's cell doors open, and she has to like fight all these guys in the rain, which I thought was a really good choreographed fight scene. And Harley winds up escaping with Cassandra.
Yeah, the only thing I want to touch on.
I'm pretty sure Montoya like corners them before she's on her way out, but she knocks her out, and they get away in a van.
The only thing I want to talk about from this whole scene is that, like, the action is cool. I really like it. It's all great. But my favorite bit is when she's like clicking all the dials to like try and open up the cells, and she's like, tick, 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 and then she ends up just taking the gun and like smashing it. I was like, oh man, that's so Harley Quinn. I love that.
So then I think the next thing that happens is they're driving in the car, and this is Harley talking to Cassandra, and they're on the freeway, and this person's like behind them, like shooting at them, and she like gives her the dynamite. She's like, yeah, throw this, will you? And she like drops it and blows this person up.
It's like, who did I kill?
Yeah. And so she's like, you're going to give me this diamond, like I need you to give me this diamond so I can get my life back. And she's like, yeah, I can't. And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, I can't, I ate it. And she's like, okay. So then we go to the grocery store.
Yep.
Which is a fantastic scene. She's just throwing stuff in the cart, and she's like, why are we here? And she's like, we got to get some things, you know, to get the diamond out, but I also need to do my grocery shopping.
Yeah.
But she like grabs the X-Lax and a knife, and she's like, it's coming out this way or this way.
I also love
Cassandra like grabs the X-Lax and she's like, this way, and she's like, that's what I thought. And then she still throws the knife in the grocery cart, which is such a good thing.
Yeah, I also like that she grabs like 8 things of the laxative. Like she grabs, she's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this whole scene is just hysterical. And then they end it with like rushing out of the grocery store by like grabbing.
Well, yeah, she's like, why are you doing all this? And she's like, oh, we're not buying this stuff. We're robbing the store. And she like runs the guy over with the cart as they escape. But isn't it? She just like run across the street to Doc's place or something. Like she doesn't go very far.
Yeah, I don't think it's like right across the street, but it's definitely like they make it look like she's just going a couple ways out of the way, you know?
Right. So we get to Doc's place, which is a Taiwanese restaurant where there's this old man that's letting her live above his restaurant in the room. And so, you know, she's hanging out with Cassandra. She's kind of showing her around the apartment. We get the hyena, who she named Bruce after that hunky Wayne guy.
That hunky Wayne.
Yeah, and then we see the Joker picture that she's been throwing knives at and stuff. And I love this scene where they sit down on the couch and they start watching cartoons. And she's like just got milk on the ground and she's like, give me the milk. And she just like picks it up off the ground and they like pour bowls of cereal and they're just like both laughing. And you could see that Harley, as set up at the beginning of the movie, needs a friend. Cassandra needs someone to you know, not steer her on the right path because she's being steered towards a life of crime, but she needs a mentor, if you will. Because she's just continuing to pickpocket and get caught. So she needs someone to teach her to be a better crook.
I think this whole scene is so endearing because it's like she comes in the room and she's like she's hiding her because she knows that she's wanted. Like Harley knows that Cassandra is wanted. And then there's the whole thing where it's like she shows her the hyena and then she's talking to the fake beaver that's like not alive. And then like
that's in the comics. The beaver actually speaks to her in the comics. It's like her internal personality. Yeah.
So I feel like I would like these Harley Quinn comics. I feel like I'd
you
like
would.
These.
Really funny. It's like a conduit for like her other. It's like Jay and Silent Bob when he's got the 2 J's. It's like that, but it's a stuffed beaver. Normally the angel would come out, but we bitch slapped that motherfucker.
We bitch slapped that motherfucker. But she's like this place is, and she's like, yeah, I know it's a dump, and she goes like, oh, it's awesome. And then she points at the guy on the thing and she's like, who's that? It's like, you don't know who that is? Is that your ex or whatever? And she's like, no, the clown prince of crime. Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, he looks like a dick. And then they pour cereal. And I'm just like, this is so cool. Like, this is the humanization that we didn't get in Suicide Squad. But it's so cool that we get it now. A very
subtle thing that happens too is before she goes up there, she's like, I always order the number 32 with extra chili so that you don't have to taste this cooking. And it's spicier. And then later when the huntress comes in, she's like, give me a number 32. Mild. Just like, she's like a stick in the mud, which I think is so funny. So while this is happening, Black Mask is having some of his, including the one at the club where, you know, he's saying Victor tells him that they lost Harley and the girl, right? And then this woman just randomly laughs. And he's like, what is she laughing at me? And he like goes over and he's like, Ewan kind of reminds me, his characterization of Roman reminds me of like the insecurities that Joe Pesci's character in Goodfellas has, you know, where like you send him over the edge and then he's like, okay, well now you're going to die, you know. Do you like Goodfellas? You seen that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
what are you saying? I'm funny. Funny how? Like what? like I'm a clown? Do I amuse you? Huh?
I will say that really, just not to throw a wrench in the plot, but right before the dress tearing thing in this whole sequence is the talk about the huntress, because they.
Okay, well, why don't you take that?
Well, there's not much to take because I don't know the lore, but like,
tell me what you see, and then I'll reinforce it with the.
So Cassandra and Harley are sitting upstairs. They're eating cereal, watching Tweety Bird, and then downstairs, the Mary Elizabeth Winstead comes in. She aims a crossbow at the old nice Asian man, and they have a conversation. And then she's like, and then it freezes, and then they recount the whole thing where she's a young kid. She's part of the Bertinelli family, and she comes in one day, and the whole family's in one room, and then she walks in, and she's like, what the fuck's going on? And they look over, and then there's another crime family that has all these guns pointed at them, and then they murder all of them. And what am I missing?
So what happens, they aren't just another crime family. They are, I can't remember her dad's first name, but Mr. Bertinelli's, like, capo regime. Like, they're his enforcers, and it's that classic mutiny story where, like, I want to take over the crime family, so we're going to get rid of the top brass. And he wipes out her entire family except for her. And is this when we get the flashbacks of her training as well, or is that later?
Yeah,
on?
No, they keep going with it because they're like the bodyguard. One of the henchmen sees that she's alive and like has pity on her, so he saves her and moves her to Sicily, I think, right? And then like she trains and starts seeking revenge.
You gotta go hide in Sicily and marry a young bride who dies in a car. But so in the comic iteration, and there's a great episode of Justice League Unlimited where they cover this origin story. Her dad hides her in a closet, and she watches everything unfold from the closet. So not much different, but it is more realistic because if they're spraying everybody with submachine guns, she would have died.
And they're going to check that shit. You know what I mean? Like, and how does that bodyguard, how does the one crony even get her out of there? Like, it's like, what the fuck?
He just like pretends she's dead until everyone goes to the bathroom and he's like, I got to run out to my car. He just like takes her. But yeah, so she gets some crossbow ninja training. And yeah, that kind of sets it up. And they're like leading up to my name is, and it's like the crossbow killer, the crossbow killer, the crossbow killer. She's like Huntress. And then the title card pops up next to her, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
So
God, I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Put her in more shit, Hollywood. Do you hear me,
she's
Hollywood?
She's very funny in this movie. I love how she is like Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover. Like, she doesn't know how to interact with other people in like a fun friend group because she's been training to kill people her whole life. She doesn't know how to interact with like friends. So like, especially the margarita scene at the end, she's just like, yeah, we can fist bump that. And she's like very awkward about stuff. And I just thought that was really funny.
It's great. She's so good, dude. Like,
think about it. If you were training to be an assassin your whole life, you wouldn't know how to have a beer with the boys, you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So then
there's the scene where they attack the apartment. That's his right after
so
that,
Black Mask puts the reward out, and Doc sees that, he can get 500,000, which is enough to buy his own restaurant. So the apartment gets attacked and they have to leave, and she thinks Bruce dies. The hyena, not Bruce Wayne. And they escape the apartment. They escape the apartment, and this is a really good scene where she sees Doc packing up his van across the street, which if I'm Doc, I'm packing up long before this attack goes down. Because like, how are you still packing up while it's getting shelled? Because
wiping
you don't
my hands of
there
that situation.
In case she does run out, or if the cops show up, But anyway, that's a nitpick. So she's like, "How could you do this?" And he's like, "It's just business, And I got enough to buy my own restaurant." And she's like, "But it's me." Kind of a heartbreaking scene, a little bit.
It's really sad.
Confidant. She's finding new ones, but this is the catalyst that she was hanging out with Cassandra and having a good time, but because she gets betrayed by Doc, then she's like, "Well, I'm just going to turn this kid in," because it seemed like for a little bit that she wasn't, but instead she's going to. So she gets on the payphone and calls Roman to, meet him. They go to Amusement Mile. Shout out to the Killing Joke fans. She's like, "Meet me at the Amusement Mile, the booby trap," which is, I guess, a name of like a fun house or something. And because Black Mask has Dinah working as his driver, Dinah also lets Montoya know. So all of our people know where things are going to be going. So I'm pretty sure that's how that third act is set up, right? Did I miss anything?
No, you didn't. I don't think you missed anything important, because then we cut from all that. Like, Songbird finds out, and then Black Mask finds out, and then we cut to that like long, big shot of like the Amusement Mile, and they like pan in on the haunted house looking thing, and then this is when they start to like kind of converge together.
Right. But Zaz hears Dinah informing Montoya, and he goes and tells Black Mask that he's been betrayed by his little bird. And this is a really cool scene because this is when he has his Willem Dafoe Green Goblin scene where he's like kind of skitzing out a little bit, and he goes to the Black Mask and actually like puts the Black Mask on, which is just such a cool character design. But
it is cool. It looks awesome. The mask looks awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool. Too bad he doesn't wear it very much.
Well, that's the thing is that you also don't want to obscure Ewan McGregor's face because he's such a fucking good actor.
FaceTime. Yeah. I know. But it is cool to see him wear it for a little bit. So, but yeah. So now we're at the amusement mile park. Montoya shows up. Harley tapes Cassandra to the toilet and gives her a bunch of prune juice and is waiting for the diamond to get pooped out, which I think is hilarious. Montoya's drunk and comes in because, Dinah told her that, she was going to be there. And they have this little like drunken Irish boxing thing. And Harley's just kind of kicking her ass. And Harley throws her out the window. But then Dinah and Zaz come in and they trank Harley, which I think is really funny because then she's kind of just like paralyzed and like watching stuff happen. Dinah goes and checks on the kid. And there's this routine where Zaz is like showing Harley his scars, and he's like, I've been saving one for you right here, which is like right across his heart, which is just such a creepy. Zaz is such a creepy guy.
Yeah. Well, they also don't they trank Harley in some way where she's she's losing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she's like paralyzed and she can only watch and listen. Kind of like an Iron Man when Jeff Bridges hits him with the sonar thing. He's like, technology.
Just like Iron Man.
I love Obadiah Stane. He's so Tony Stark built this in a cave
with a bunch of scraps.
With a box of scraps. I love the tie flip as he like points at Christmas Story guy.
I like it when he offers him pizza, where he's like, slice.
Yeah, he's like playing piano. He's like, just because I brought pizza back from New York doesn't mean the board meeting went bad. God, Iron Man's such a good movie.
Let's rewatch Iron Man.
All right, so
that's on the list, by the way. Every Marvel movie.
Sure. Oh God, that's gonna be so much longer. But so Zaz confronts Dinah. He pulls a gun on her. He's like, I know you betrayed Roman. And then Huntress shows up and she shoots Victor. And we find out that Victor was the last of the 4 people, and Harley's kind of regaining her mobility a little bit. Montoya comes back into the scene and Helena's like talking about her backstory and how she had to kill all these people. And we see all the hits happen.
Yeah.
And afterwards, Harley's like, great, you did it, which I just think is really funny. And you could see that like, she's not quite fulfilled with it, but yeah, this is a really funny sequence. And they keep calling her the crossbow killer. Like, something comes up where Harley's like, yeah, you're hunting down people with the bow and arrow. She's like, it's a crossbow. I'm not 12. She's like very insecure about it.
My favorite part about this scene is when they knock Zaz down on the couch and he's like kind of like almost dead. And then Harley
yeah,
she's like only has the mobility of one arm, but she's like, stabbing him.
So then they hear a commotion outside and they look out there and Black Mask is here and he's with all of his hitmen that he hires. And Harley's like, well, we got to suit up so we can fight them off. But before they do this, they have this fantastic scene where she's trying to convince them to team up. And it's the most unenthusiastic team up scene where everyone's just like, okay. And then like Huntress is like, yeah, sure. They're just like, Harley's like way more into it. And
yeah,
I love how they're suiting up, and she's like, "This is great. It's like a sleepover. We should order pizza, make some Cosmos." And she was like, "Harley, focus." Yeah, it's just I love this sequence coming up. This is what I've been looking forward to talking about a little bit. So Cassandra's very worried. She's like, "Everyone's gonna kill me. Like they want to cut the diamond out of me and stuff like that." And they're like, "We're gonna all protect you." Like everyone has an attachment to Cassandra at this point, besides maybe Huntress, but. She does in the course of the battle. She gives her the toy car because she sees that this kid is afraid, which reminds her of that. So I love how they're all just kind of like protecting her. But this is the sequence that I wanted to talk about. Great use of the song Barracuda. So fun. In this fight in the funhouse, is the closest thing we've had to like a well done Joel Schumacher-esque Gotham City fight in like a long time. It reminds me of like the opening of Batman and Robin, but like more gritty.
Yeah.
Or like the Christmas Eve fight in Batman Returns and like the town square. And so it's just like very colorful, and there's shirtless guys for some reason and people in clown costumes, and it's like an Arkham game. Like everyone looks really stupid, but you're just like watching them beat them up. Really well choreographed fight, I think. Really fun.
Yeah, it's goofy,
Extremely
but the right
violent
amount of goofy, I think. Like it doesn't take me out of it, but it is goofy. It's like you're seeing these machines like moving around. I don't know. It's goofy.
It's fun.
It's fun. Yeah.
Harley's using the mallet and people using baseball bats and crossbows and stuff. But they get outside after they subdue everybody inside, and they're just starting to get gunned down, and they're running out of ammo, and Cassandra gets taken by Roman. And so they are able to escape kind of this thing because Dinah uses her sonic blast. And Harley has been wearing roller skates, and this is such a funny chase where she's like, the hunters drag her with the motorcycle, and she's on the skates and stuff like that. And I love the part where she's like, Whitney, and she just like tail whips her, and she flies into the car. Just really fun use of like, just like goofy comedy action and stuff like that.
But then it's also like calling back to the whole roller derby thing. Like even in this stupid goofy comic book movie, it's like, well, she went through this phase where she was trying a bunch of different stuff, and here's the reality of that. So it's cool. Like I don't know. It's clever.
Yeah. But this leads to our final showdown, which when they're gearing up earlier, we see Cassandra grab a grenade, which will come back into play momentarily. But they're on this pier. It's called the Founders Pier, which is also, a great comic tie-in, which I love that. It's like this rickety old pier, and it's got these statues, and it's very foggy because it's by the ocean. And I just love the aesthetic of the scene. So she's got one bullet in Montoya's gun, and she's going to try and kill Black Mask. And they're having this monologue where he's talking about how like she needs somebody like him, to kind of be her alpha dog. And she's like, no, I'm on my own. I don't need you. I don't need Mr. J. And then she winds up shooting the statue and wasting the bullet. And Black Mask's got the gun on Cassandra, and Cassandra does this thing where she's like, I forgot to tell you, I got your ring. And she like holds the grenade pin, and Harley like kicks Black Mask off the pier, and he blows the fuck up.
Into smithereens.
Like, it's so grotesque. But yeah, he's dead. So, and then we get our classic superhero tying up the loose ends montage. So we see Montoya quitting the GCPD, which I think is a really fun scene because she's like, I love her wearing the shade, and she just like takes a sip of the flask and puts it in the box, and like she walks out because her boss got all the credit for the Sionis capture and the ending of the crime family. And we see that Helena has used her money from inside the diamond. She gets the Bertinelli diamond back, and they start their own criminal team called the Birds of Prey. So we see her and Black Canary and Montoya fighting together. And while they're having margaritas and tacos, Harley escapes with the kid and steals Black Canary's car. And we see them escape at the end, eating breakfast sandwiches with Bruce in the back seat. And she takes her under her wing as her ward. And we get a good wink at the camera. And she leaves. So
we did it.
Apparently, there's a post-credit audio sequence.
Really?
But I didn't see. It says this on Wikipedia. In a post-credits audio sequence, Harley's about to reveal a secret about Batman, but the film ends mid-sentence. So it takes like a Sopranos ending.
I've never seen.
I didn't catch that when I watched it. So we did it. Birds of Prey.
Congratulations, John. I think we cobbled that together like a fine wine.
It was a rickety start. It was more like a $5 wine, but
it's like a Franzia,
Yeah, well, it starts out tasting really bad at the beginning, but once you've had a couple glasses, you're like, this is the best wine I've ever had. So, yeah. You want to do the categories real quick?
Yeah, so you have your classic questions.
Yeah, so who won the movie for you? I think this one's pretty obvious.
I'm going to say Margot Robbie.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Margot Robbie.
She is now like, she is Harley Quinn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, especially after this movie, I think she's got the role locked down for however many they want to make. And honestly, I hope she produces most of them, because if they're all in the same vein as this one, she's got the character figured out really well.
Yeah. Margot Robbie, one of the best actresses, young actresses of our time. She's in some great, great films with crazy talented directors and cast and producers. And she gets cast as Harley Quinn, which is a very important female anti-hero in comics. In the Suicide Squad movie, the movie is a disaster, but people like her performance. She ends up going on to like revitalize that character in this movie. And like, I don't know, that's impressive. Like any other actress, any other actor, like they get in that situation where they're cast as a role and then it flops and it does terribly, like, or the role is badly perceived and they just like drop out and piece the fuck out. But like Margot Robbie stuck with it and she ended up creating something that I think is really, really great. And so I think she undeniably won this movie. Like her portrayal of Harley Quinn it's the only live action interpretation, but it's the best. I mean, it's going to be really, really crazy if someone outdoes this in the near future.
Yeah.
I think
so.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think she's got this role locked down. She's going to be in the new James Gunn Suicide Squad, which transcends multiple directors at this point. So I think she's going to be kind of like Robert Downey Jr., where no matter if it's an Iron Man or a Captain America or an Avengers movie, like that character will be in it. And, you know, hopefully tonally that character won't change movie to movie. So.
Yeah. I think a runner-up is Ewan McGregor, just because he played such a great villain.
Definitely. And also, this is coming after his role as Danny Torrance in Dr. Sleep and his announcement as Obi-Wan Kenobi. So the Ewan McGregor is happening.
Go watch Dr. Sleep, everybody. It's a good movie. Not enough people watched it.
It was good. So then the next one is your favorite scene.
Do you have one right out the gate?
Yeah, I like the Barracuda fight, actually. That was my favorite. That was the most fun. I was like, this is like a fun comic book. Either that or her and Cassandra in the apartment.
Okay. I think, like I said earlier, my favorite scene, stem to stern, is the egg sandwich chase, like with all the people that she wronged, and you get like all the goofy stuff and her being funny in the streets and running around. And I mean, it's either that for me or it's her infiltrating the GCPD with like the mustard gun. Like I thought that was fucking awesome. So
yeah.
Or the grocery scene. They're all good. There's so many good scenes.
There's a lot of favorite moments to this.
Yeah.
So
I really enjoy it.
The third and final one is our rating and ranking.
So let's remind the Radiovania audience out there. The DCEU in review so far goes like this. Number 1, Shazam. Number 2, Wonder Woman. Number 3, Man of Steel. Number 4, Aquaman. Number 5, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Number 6, Justice League. And number 7, Suicide Squad. John.
It's definitely better than Suicide Squad.
Here's what I'm struggling with, right? I think this is a better movie than Aquaman.
I would agree with you.
But I don't think I can put it over Man of Steel.
I would agree with you.
I think Man of Steel.
I think we got this pretty easily. Ratings wise, I think I'd probably give it like a 7. But in terms of like, or maybe even higher than that. But like our rankings, I think it falls in line between those in the Radiovania ranking. And I don't really think we need to litigate it that much. I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, I think like rating wise, I give this
like it more. I'm curious if you like it more than Wonder Woman, because that was still a big
I like it more than Wonder Woman.
ranking.
Yeah, like I think this is a better movie than Wonder Woman. Yeah, I think it's more entertaining. It's shorter. It moves by at a clip. It's got funny dialogue, some heartfelt moments. The third act in this is way better than Wonder Woman, in my opinion. I still think that Gal Gadot gives a better performance than anyone in this entire movie in Wonder Woman, but that to me doesn't save the entire movie. Like I think Birds of Prey is more.
We know how you feel about Ares. So.
Yeah, I hate Ares, man. So like my list, if I was going to
ready for that Pedro Pascal Maxwell Lord,
let's go, baby, Pedro.
Yeah.
If I was going to construct, and we'll do this at the end of the DCEU in review, but like my list would go Shazam, Man of Steel, Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman, and then the rest below it. So like that would be the only thing I would flip, is I would take Wonder Woman and put it below Birds of Prey. But I don't know. I think
mine then for our contention would be Shazam, Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
So you and I just have Wonder Woman and Birds of Prey flip flopped.
Not necessarily. I would have Wonder Woman lower than Man of Steel as well.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think, I mean, are you okay with putting it at the number 4 spot now and bumping Aquaman down to 5?
Mm-hmm. I've only seen this once, but it's already a better constructed movie through and through than Aquaman. So
yeah, like Aquaman has so much bullshit in it, and if Aquaman
has a villain problem too, because they lean into the wrong villain in that movie, and it's so bloated. Whereas this one's much more streamlined. So. Yeah.
More concise, just I think better written too. Like the comedy in Birds of Prey is funnier than I didn't laugh at all during Aquaman except for at how bad it was.
Yeah, we could have just peed on it.
Yeah, right. But in Birds of Prey, I'm legitimately laughing because the jokes are funny. It's not because it's bad. So
right.
But I don't know. I think that's a good spot for it personally, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Like I was worried that you weren't going to love it. I didn't know how you were going to react to all the comic book stuff that I don't know about, but. I think it's a really great.
They handled it really well. So that kind of upped it for me a little bit.
Cool. Well, yeah,
it's actually a DCEU movie that, in the same vein as Shazam, handles the lore really well while still putting that DCEU skin on it. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So once again, the ratings. Number 1, Shazam. Number 2, Wonder Woman. Number 3, Man of Steel. Number 4, Birds of Prey. Number 5, Aquaman. Number 6, Batman vs. Superman. Number 7, Justice League. And number 8, Suicide Squad. The last thing I want to end on, John, before we close this book. Where do you think Wonder... Yeah.
Because we have Snyder Cut, too.
The next thing we have on the list, though, is Wonder Woman 84. I want to know where you think this is going to end up.
84. If the villains are handled really well, which considering that they cast Pedro Pascal and Kristen Wiig, I think 84 could be better than the first Wonder Woman, because we get better villains. We still have Gal Gadot, and we still get Steve Trevor in some way, which we don't know how, but we still get him, and he's a great heart to those. I think 84 could fall in our personal rankings. I don't know, but I think if it's really good, it could take the number. But that could be really hard because of your love for Man of Steel. So we'll see.
Well, my love for, again, like Man of Steel, not the best movie ever, but in the DCEU, I think
I would be curious to see if it's better than Shazam, though, because I think it's going to be really hard to top.
The optimist in me says that I think it could come in at number 2 and beat out the original Wonder Woman. The pessimist in me thinks it can't be any worse than Aquaman.
Agreed. So it's like somewhere between 2 and 5.
Yeah. Like literally, I don't think that it can be any worse than number 5. I think that it can only slide in between 1 to 4.
Because Frieda and I are going to watch Wonder Woman before 84 comes out this week, so I'll have it fresh in my mind. But also now that I've seen Birds of Prey 5 days before 84, I'm probably going to be comparing that to Birds of Prey and being like, is this as funny and as enjoyable as the Birds of Prey hour and 40 minutes was, you know? So that'll be interesting.
Do we know how long 84 is? Like, how long is that movie?
Let me look, see if it's on IMDb for running time.
While John's checking the running time, I'm going to close this son of a bitch out so we can go to bed.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Huh?
Yeah, I still got to make dinner, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
2 hours and 30 minutes.
Woo! That's a chunky boy.
It's either going to be really bloated or it's going to be an epic.
I hope so. I hope it's an epic. I really have high hopes for
let's be honest. At least 2 hours and 30 minutes means that they can fully set up both villains in a good way.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I'm excited for this, dude. I can't
I'm
wait.
excited too.
Pedro.
Christmas Day, baby. We are
Merry Christmas to everyone.
5 days away. Thank you all for listening to Radiovania's DCEU in review. We will be back sometime in the next few weeks with Wonder Woman 1984. Please do your homework and watch the movie. It is free for people that subscribe to HBO Max. It will be free for a month for people that subscribe to the channel. So please get that out of the way and then listen to Radiovania. Obviously, do it, radiovania.com. RadiovaniaShow@gmail.com, or follow us on any podcast platform you like. I'm at Zach Rotello on Twitter. You can follow the ghost of John Parker at @DatJohnParker. And thank you guys very much for joining us for Birds of Prey. We will see you soon. John, give me a Harley Quinn voiced outro.
See y'all later.